Hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I have my mom on my channel because she is going to answer your questions about periods. I know I give a lot of advice about periods on my channel, but I'm nowhere near like qualified to give periods as much as she is.
Well, just years more experience, that's all.
This video could be really great for anyone who like has trouble talking to their own mother about having periods or like their own family, and if they just need like kind of just an older person who's like not their age to kind of give advice about periods.
Well, I know that when I was that age, I wanted somebody to be able to talk to and ask questions. And it's sort of also learning as you go, but knowing that you're not the only one who experiences certain things can make you feel better. And there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. This is a natural part of being
no one would be here.
Female. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something beautiful, actually. It's part of what brings life into this world.
Yep. I put on my Instagram story a question box basically asking you guys to ask questions about periods. Lots of people asked you for your first period story. Like tons of people.
Well, I can tell you I was a bit of a late bloomer. Most of my friends had their period already, and I was down to the last maybe 3 of us. I didn't get mine till I had just turned 15, which is late. I think I even went to the doctor. I made my mom take me to the doctor at one point to find out why I was so late, and the doctor said, look, there's a wide range. You can get it as early as, you know, 9, 10, or you can get it as late as 15. Like, plus my grandmother had gotten hers late, so it sort of ran in the family. I was upset because that summer I was at summer camp with my friends. 3 of us were basically the last 3 of all of our group in that year to not get it, and then one of my friends got hers and she was like, guess what? And me and my other friend were like, we were like happy for her, but we were also jealous. I was worried. I didn't want to be the last one. In retrospect, it's sort of like once you get it, as you know,
you like, don't want it. Like, why?
But the day I got my period, that morning, I woke up, I went to the bathroom, I looked down, I'm like, so happy, you know, and
then that disappeared very quickly
with excitement, and my mom came in and she gave me a pad.
You were at home?
I was at home. I was just getting ready to leave for school. I put a pad on and I was like the happiest girl in the world.
So was I when I first got it.
I remember. And it was light, and I kept saying to my mom, are you sure? Are you sure? Do I really have it? And she was like, yes, this is it. I came home from school and my dad is waiting with a video camera, okay? So I walk in, he's like, did anything special happen to you today? And I was like, Dad!
Hi, something special happened to you today?
And I was so embarrassed, but I was happy that he made a big deal about it.
And relating to that, a lot of people asked you how you felt when I got my first period, what your reaction was.
Well, at first I was like shocked.
Well,
I think I was brushing my son's teeth.
Yeah, we were just all in the bathroom.
Yeah, and she looked down, and we both looked down, and I was like, and my first thought was it's her period, and then my second thought was like, oh, I hope like
she's not bleeding weirdly, like.
But then we realized it sort of washed over me, and I'm like, oh my god. I had mixed feelings. I was really, really excited because I knew she'd been wanting it and really anticipating it and preparing for getting it. But also I was like, oh, that's it. Like, it's a new milestone. I know, like my baby's growing up. But I was excited for you. And then we went into the logistics of, okay, so now you're really gonna have to figure out how you put on your pad. And I'd been waiting to make her a red velvet cake, and like we knew that we were gonna have chocolate and red velvet cake to celebrate.
A couple of people asked if you have a period horror story. If you could think of like just one that was like really bad.
Oh no, I have one. I'm just not sure if I should share it.
Share it, honestly.
So I was once at a party. I was wearing a tampon. I had set my timer because I knew I had to change my tampon at a certain point. I went to the bathroom. I took the tampon out and it was in the toilet.
You put the tampon in the toilet?
Well, in those days, yes. Now I never do. Because what happened was I flushed the toilet and everything got stuck.
It was a horror show.
There was my bloody tampon in the toilet. People were knocking on the door because they needed to use the bathroom. And I was like, oh god, what do I do? What do I do? Also, they had like one of those garbage cans that
like
see
the box,
everything, and it was empty. So I was like, if I take it out of the toilet and wrap it up, they're gonna see it. It was a disaster.
And you were at a party with tons of people. Oh, god.
So what I did end up doing was I think, take it out of the toilet. I wrapped it in tons of toilet paper. I couldn't throw it in the garbage, so I ended up putting it in my purse, wrapped in tons of toilet paper. It's such a horrible story. It was just like one of those nightmare situations. It was crazy.
Oh my god. So relating to that, actually, you got a lot of questions questions asking about how to use tampons, feeling
Well,
comfortable.
first of all, if you've never used one before, you have to understand that the first time with anything like this is going to feel a little bit weird. I would start with the slenderest, slimmest tampon you can get. They tell you explicit instructions in the box of tampons that explain how to do it. They say try to do it from like a sitting position because it's easier. You could hold a mirror down there. But basically at some point you're going to have to stick the tampon up as far as you can get it up there, because if you don't stick it up far enough, you can feel it in there. When you know you've done it right, you don't feel it in there.
The funny thing is, if you've watched me for a while, you know I use contact lenses, and I honestly think tampons and contact lenses are so similar in that way that if they're in right, you can't feel them.
It's taking it out that can be more painful, which is
I've heard that. Ew.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why it is, but yeah, maybe it's because it's going against the muscle. I'm not 100% sure what the reason is. You get used to it. The first time you do it, you're like, oh my god, I'm pulling out my inside. When you put it in the first place, make sure the string is still hanging down, because that's the way you're going to get it out. You don't want to push it in so far that you don't still have access to the string. You should have at least a couple of inches. But when you're taking it out, yeah, you have to kind of like do it slowly. And
but some people say doing it slowly is worse.
That's true. Sometimes if you do it slowly, you prolong the agony. But if you do it too quickly, that's not good either. All I can tell you is everybody who's used them goes through it. It's totally normal. You eventually just get used to it. And the more you get used to it, the easier it gets, and then the less painful it will be.
That's good.
And it's good to have as an option, because you may be in a situation where you just don't want to have that bulky pad, or you're going swimming, or whatever it is, where you really feel like you want to have a tampon in.
A question that we got was, how do you feel about your daughter educating people on periods?
At first I was like, are you sure people are really going to be interested in hearing about this? But then I realized, you know, looking back to when I was this age, there was no YouTube, and I really would have loved to have a resource like that where you could sort of hear someone who was like a peer who's going through the same thing at the same time and hear what they were going through. There's something really nice about the fact that this is a totally objective person with no hidden agenda. Ruby just wants to like share her experiences and hopefully help people. If it's helping people, that's great. And if it helps people feel more comfortable discussing these natural bodily functions, then even better.
The next question is, what do you do if you have a boy teacher and they won't let you go to the washroom?
Like a male teacher? Yeah. This is a really sensitive subject, because if you truly do have to go, because we all know it, you can be sitting there perfectly normally on your period and suddenly you feel a gush of blood and you're like, oh god, that for surely, and you want to get to the toilet before it starts actually seeping through your clothes. It's an urgent situation, and you don't really want to raise your hand and say,
hi, I have my period and I just like had a ton of blood come out of me.
You don't want the whole class hearing that. You should be able to raise your hand and say, I need to use the bathroom, and the teacher should be willing to say, okay, go ahead. I remember growing up, like we'd be at school and just to get out of PE or other things, if we had a male teacher, my friends, they knew that if they said lady problem, or even I've got my period, the teacher wouldn't want to touch on it, so they'd be like, okay, just go,
it's like a man,
do what you have to do. But there were people who like manipulated teachers using that. Yeah, it was funny.
All right, so another question you got is kind of relating to what we were talking about, but what age do you think is a good age to start wearing tampons?
I think back in the day, they didn't recommend them when you first started, because I think maybe part of it was that they felt that people weren't going to be responsible about taking them out on time, and this is a big issue. You definitely want to be clear-headed and responsible enough to know that you should never leave them in for, I think it's 4 to 6 hours. No, it's a big deal, because if you leave it in too long, you could end up with something called toxic shock syndrome. You could end up with an infection, and there are people that completely forget they had a tampon in there. To this day, I write down when I've put it in, and I write down when I've taken it out. I do it in my phone in the notes, because if I don't see that I've taken it out, there have been a few times where I've actually had to go to the doctor to say I'm worried I left a tampon in, because suddenly my flow stopped and there's no way to really find it. We all get distracted. We all have like, you know, a million things going on, and before you know it, you're like, oh my god, I don't remember if I took it out, and you can't go running to the doctor every time you're worried. So that is how it pertains to age. I think that there is an age at which a person becomes, you know, mature enough and responsible enough to say, I will be really careful and responsible.
And I guess you have to decide that for yourself.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person, but there's no physiological reason why you can't use them once you have your period.
Yeah. Right. This person asked, I don't know why, but I skipped my periods by 3 months. Any suggestions on how to bring it back?
Well, first of all, I would have questions about how long have you been menstruating? Is this the way it's been from the beginning? Ruby hasn't been consistent at all with her cycle. And that could be for many reasons. Usually it's just normal. Like in the beginning of menstruation, most women are irregular for a long time, and then they eventually get into a routine. It becomes a regular cycle, but it takes a while. The hormones are all over the place. It could be hormonal. If it's regular every 3 months, that's your cycle. But if it's sort of inconsistent even then, I don't know. They say if you exercise too hard, too much, or if you're dieting, like there are things that can stop you from getting your period.
And if you're too stressed.
But really, if you're concerned about it, you should go see your doctor.
Another question question we got was, does your period fully stop in the water?
It's interesting because I've noticed that yes, like if I were to take a bath or a shower while I'm my period, it seems like it stopped.
Yeah.
And that is a good question. I know a lot of people have that experience where they say it stops. I'm not sure why that is.
Mine stops kind of.
I think it does to a certain extent, but I think that maybe it's just temporary, and if you're in there long enough, it would start again.
Best cramp hack.
When I've had cramps, the best things that I've found are either taking something like Advil, which actually is known to help stop cramps. A warm heating pad really helps. Sometimes it's just sort of like lying down with the heating pad.
Stretching kind of helps.
Stretching. Some people will say exercise helps, and that you go for a walk or you go like do something active.
Is it harder to deal with periods while you're at work or when you were younger at school?
Anywhere you go in public, you're aware of the fact that you have your period. I would say it's a little bit harder at school. It was hard because of the same reasons you're talking about. Like, it's sometimes hard to get the teacher to let you go to the bathroom. Like, maybe even twice in one class you feel you have to go to the bathroom if the flow is really heavy. Also, like, you don't get that much privacy.
Did getting periods get easier as you got older?
Yes and no. Definitely as I got older as a teenager and in my 20s. I don't even really remember having my period. Every month I would just get it. It was part of my routine. The cramps weren't that bad. Everybody's experience is different though. I have friends who had horrible cramps. I can tell you though, after having 2 kids, my periods are definitely heavier. Definitely had more cramps. Some people say they have lighter periods after, so everybody is completely different.
Another question is, why do women crave chocolate on their period?
Well, there are theories about that, and part of the theories are that dark chocolate helps iron, helps with your iron supply.
And magnesium, which is also important.
Yeah, and so your body is losing iron because you're bleeding, so your body is naturally craving that replenishment. I think it's also related to energy. Like, if your energy's a little depleted, everybody gets a bit tired on their period.
Oh, yeah.
That boost of like energy that you get from like a little chocolate feels good.
What's the best way to get rid of stains?
Well, first of all, I now, for years, I wear my black underwear when I'm on my period.
I steal hers.
I sleep in like my black shorts or black sweatpants. Like, I have it all down. The best way to get rid of stains is the quicker you can get to them, the better. Once they've had a chance to really
oxidize,
then it's harder. But if it's one of those situations where you wake up and it's already dried blood all over your underwear or your sheets, I've had it happen. The only thing I can suggest is spraying it with like spray and wash or any of those like really strong, like Resolve, which is pretty good, or OxyClean. Spray it, use hot water, and like really get in there, even using your nails to really dig into the fabric to really like try to get it out before you wash it, and then get it into the hot washer as soon as possible.
Should you exercise on your period?
Absolutely. There's Olympic athletes out there who have their periods and they still have to go do the Olympics. There's no reason you can't.
How do you know when a pad is ready to be changed?
I have a general rule that if the flow is heavy and you're soaking it up to the point that, like, you know, it's starting to not be absorbed that much and it sort of sits on the top of the pad, that's bad. I change it pretty frequently. When the flow is heavy, I probably change it every 2 hours. But then if the flow's not that heavy, I would say 4 hours.
Your mom's opinion on Diva cups, reusable pads, like eco-friendly stuff?
I think that those are admirable, the people that feel they can use them. It's an extra step because I think you
have to wash it.
You have to know how to do it, but anything that helps the environment, I'm very in favor of.
Do you get mood swings?
Definitely mood swings.
I do.
And I definitely have PMS more than I used to, where I used to say, I don't even have PMS. Now I get maybe a headache a few days before and then I know my period's coming, or I get kind of almost lightheaded and I feel a little bit weak and more tired than usual. That makes me moody because if I'm tired, I get kind of cranky. I just feel generally like, this sucks.
This is an interesting question. Does the 28 days start at the start of your period or the end? Sorry if this is confusing, but I kind of get it. Like, basically, when do you start counting when your cycle starts?
Day 1 is the day of bleeding. Let's say the night before you just have a little bit of spotting. No, you count it on when the flow starts.
When the flow starts. Have you always been open with talking about periods?
I never had a problem with it where I was like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. I don't try to hide it, but I don't bring it up unless I, you know, it's like, if I have to bring it up, I will.
This is a funny question, and you know I did a video with Max about this. You fart a lot more on your period.
Yeah, I think you are more gassy on your period. It's a bloaty, gassy, everything's all gassy. Yeah, I think that's funny, but
Do periods ever get really easy to track?
Basically? Oh yeah. You'll get into a groove where you're like, I'm about to get my period. It could be a headache or just
so like the irregular, because I go through it too. The irregularity won't last forever.
No, it doesn't last forever, and you can almost time it perfectly, but not everybody. Some people are just always irregular. Everybody's different, but you can start to notice patterns. Like, I feel like I get a certain taste in my mouth. Like, I know it's hormones. I can tell now it's hormones. Oh my God, that's cool. Also, right before I get my period, I get cold because I think estrogen drops right before you get your period.
What's the best pad brand?
I think the most important thing is that it has wings and that it comes in different sizes for different types of flow, so that if you have, you know, your overnight ones that are longer, and then for lighter days, you just use like a panty liner or something like that. Yeah. I like the Target brand, the Up and Up brand. They're good, and Always is a good brand. I don't think scented brands are good. I know they used to make them with scents, tampons as well that have scents, and I remember my doctor told me that the stuff they use is an artificial air freshener type thing, and it's not good for you, so I don't use those.
Yeah. How to tell your parents if you don't,
I mean,
how to tell them.
Generally, what I found with Ruby anyway, like we discussed it so much before she got it. I had the talk with her about, this is what you're going to expect, this is what it's going to be like. She felt comfortable, and we were waiting for it to happen. But let's say, you know, it's totally unexpected. Wow, I got my period. My perspective is it's best to just be honest and straightforward and just say, mom or dad or whoever it is, whoever you're living with that's in charge of you, looking after you. You just go to them and say, I have to talk to you about something, and they'll be all like, what? What's wrong? And you say, no, it's nothing bad. I actually just got my period. I wanted to tell you, you know, I'm excited or I'm nervous or I'm scared. But it's good to have the conversation before with them so that when you actually get it, it's not this huge shock. You already know how they feel about it, and you already know what their thoughts are going to be about it.
Is it normal for your first few periods to be brown?
Yes, definitely. You know, the beginning,
all bets are off.
some people just get a little bit of spotting for their first period and they're like, that's all it is. Some people have a heavy flow right from the start. Again, this all comes down to your hormones. Hormones are wonky for the first little while, so you can't expect it to just be a normal flow. It's perfectly normal for it to be like that. Yes.
I think that this is a great last question to like end on. How do I start talking about these things to my mom?
First of all, I just want to say the fact that you're even asking that question, I'm proud of you, because it shows that you want to have a connection about this and you're trying to communicate and make it less uncomfortable, and that's a really amazing, brave thing to do.
You're so sweet.
No, but it is. Again, I think simplicity is best and just being direct. If you're scared to like introduce the subject verbally, maybe write an email or a text saying I want to talk to you about something, or if you don't want to email or text, you could leave a little note by their bed that says I need to talk to you about something.
Talk to your mother.
Don't feel bad about yourself because you're doing the right thing.
I don't want to say your mom's a bad person if she doesn't want to talk about it. Maybe she's been like, maybe it's generational stuff,
it could be generational, and you don't know how she was raised and whether she was sort of made to feel bad every time she wanted to talk about personal stuff like that. Ideally, your parent or your guardian or whoever you're with would say to you, of course we can talk, but it doesn't always happen that way. Preface it by saying, I have something that I really need to talk to you about. I'd really like your advice. I really value your opinion. You know, I'm hoping this won't be uncomfortable. I'm just nervous to bring it up, that kind of thing.
And if that doesn't work, you always can watch this video as much as you need to, and watch my period videos as much
I'll answer any questions anytime. I believe it's important to be open and honest and comfortable talking about stuff like this with your children. It's a big life change. It was very important to me that Ruby feel comfortable, that she could talk to me, and that she felt like she could always come to me. And I thought this would be a great video for anyone who can't do that or like just wants like a mother's opinion. So yeah, before you leave, please like this video, and also if you made it to the end of this video, comment down below, let's normalize periods, to just kind of spread that message, because as you can see, my mom and I just want to normalize periods as much as possible. No, and one thing I want to say is that once you do talk, like there are always subjects, not just periods, but things that are hard to bring up because you're like, oh god, it's so awkward. But you'll realize like when you actually talk about it, you actually become much more comfortable, and that's how it should be.
Also, let me know if you want us to do a part 2. Maybe if you like this video and you have more questions, we could film this again like in a few months or something.
Anytime.
I've also done some other videos with my mom, and my mom has made an appearance in some of my other videos, and I'll link those down below.
I like the video that you did where you acted like brain, heart, and uterus or whatever. I like that one. I thought that was fun.
My mom loves my period videos. I sometimes walk into the kitchen and I see her like watching my videos. It's so funny. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and I love you guys. Say bye with me. Bye.